Hey up mid up YouTube, welcome back to another video with Rams fan YT. We are almost at the end of this mini series of a history of your club. This is only the first series. I will definitely be continuing this in the future before anyone complains in the comments that they're going to desperately miss it. Because we've only done the Premier League so far. We've got so many football clubs to look at. But today in particular we are looking at West Bromwich Albion, or as they were originally founded as West Bromwich Strollers in 1878. They were formed by workers of George Salter's Spring Works in West Bromwich Albion in the Black Country. They were renamed West Bromwich Albion in 1880, becoming the first team to adopt the Albion suffix. Albion was a district of West Bromwich where some players lived and worked, close to what is today Greets Green area, if you know your West Brom area. The club joined the Birmingham District Football Association in 1881 and became eligible for their first competition, the Birmingham Cup. They reached the quarter-finals, beating several longer established clubs on the way. In 1883, Albion won their first trophy, the Staffordshire Cup. Albion joined the Football Association in the same year. This enabled them to enter the FA Cup for the first time in 1883-84 season. Although, of course, no football was played then, so okay, whether you can call it season or not. In 1885, the club turned professional, and in 1886, they reached the FA Cup final for the first time, where they lost 2-0 to Blackburn Rovers in a replay. They reached the final again in 1887, but lost 2-0 again to Aston Villa, the local rivals. In 1888, the team won the trophy for the first time, beating strong favourites Preston North End at 2-1 in the final. As FA Cup winners, they qualified to play in a Football World Championship game against Scottish Cup winners Renton, which ended in a 4-1 defeat. Not many people mention that because it's a history of a long of a competition, and only Scottish teams won it. And it was only between Scotland and England, and it wasn't really world either. In March 1888, William McGregor wrote to what he considered to be the top 5 English teams, including Albion, informing them of his intention to form an association of clubs that would play each other home and away each season. Thus, when the Football League started later that year, Albion became one of the 12 founding members. Albion's second FA Cup success came in 1892, whereby they beat Aston Villa 3-0. They met Villa again in the 1895 final, but this time they lost 1-0. The team suffered relegation to Division 2 in 1901, their first season at the Hawthorns. They were promoted as champions the following season, but they were relegated again in 1903-04. The club won the Division 2 championship once more in 1910-11. The following season, they reached another FA Cup final, where they were defeated by second division Barnsley in a replay. Albion won the Football League title in 1919-20 for their only time in their history, following the end of World War I. Their totals of 104 goals and 60 points, both breaking previous league records. The team finishes Division 1924-25, narrowly losing out to Huddersfield Town, but they were relegated in 1926-27. In 1930-31, they won promotion as well as the FA Cup by beating Birmingham at 2-1 in the final. The double of winning the FA Cup and promotion has not been achieved before or since this event. Albion reached the final again in 1935, where they lost to Sheffield Wednesday, but they were relegated 3 years later. They gained promotion in 1948-49, and there followed the club's longest unbroken spell in the top flight of English football, a total of 24 years. In 1953-54, Albion came close to being the first team in the 20th century to win the league and cup double. They succeeded in winning the FA Cup part, beating Preston North End 3-2, But injuries and a loss of form towards the end of the season meant they finished runners-up to fierce rivals Wolverhampton Wanderers in the league. Nonetheless, Albion became known for their brand of fluent attacking football, with the 1953-54 side being hailed as the team of the century, despite only being halfway through it. One national newspaper actually went as far as to suggest that the team be chosen en masse to represent England at the 1954 FIFA World Cup finals. They remained one of the top English sides for the remainder of a decade, reaching the semi-final of the 1957 FA Cup and achieving 3 consecutive top 5 finishes in the Division 1 between 1957-58 and 1959-60. Although their league form was less impressive during the 1960s, the second half of the decade saw West Brom establish a reputation as a successful cup side. Albion entered the EFL Cup for their first time in 1965-66, and under manager Jimmy Hagan, won the final by defeating West Ham United 5-3 on aggregate. That was the last 2-legged final, and the following year Albion reached the final again. This was the first final to be played at Wembley. They lost 3-2 to 3rd Division QPR, or Queen's Park Rangers, after being 2-0 up at half-time. Albion's cup form continued under Hagan's successor, Alan Ashman. He guided the club to their last major trophy to date, the 1968 FA Cup, when they beat Everton in extra time thanks to a single goal by Jeff Astle. Albion reached the FA Cup semi-final and the European Cup Winners' Cup quarter-final in 1969, and were defeated 2-1 by Manchester City in the 1970 League Cup final. The club were less successful during the reign of Don Howe and were relegated to Division 2 at the end of the 1972-73 season, but they gained promotion 3 years later under the guidance of player-manager Johnny Giles. Under Ron Atkinson, I've mentioned his name before, you may recognise, Albion reached the 1978 FA Cup semi-final, but lost to Ipswich Town. In May of that year, Albion became the first English professional team to play in China, going unbeaten on their 5-game trip. In 1978-79, the team finished 3rd in Division 1. This was their highest placing for over 20 years. And they also reached the UEFA Cup quarter-final, where they were defeated by Red Star Belgrade. The team around this time was notable for simultaneously fielding 3 black players of Cyril, Laurie Cunningham and Brendan Batson, and is considered to be an integral part of the acceptance of black footballers in the English leagues. In his second spell as manager, Ronnie Allen guided the team to both domestic cup semi-finals in 1981-82. The mid-1980s saw the start of Albion's longest and deepest decline. They were relegated in 1985-86 with the worst record in the club's history, beginning a period of 16 years outside the top flight. 5 years later, the club were relegated to the 3rd Division for their first and so far only time. Albion had spent the majority of their history in top flight of English football, but when the Premier League was founded in 1992, the club found themselves in the 3rd tier, which had been renamed Division 2. In 1992-93, Albion finished 4th and entered the playoffs for the first time. Albion's first appearance at Wembley, therefore, for over 20 years, and their last at the original stadium. This saw them beat Port Vale 3-0 to return to the second level, which was then renamed the First Division. Manager Ossie Ardiles then joined Tottenham Hotspur. However, and a succession of managers over the next few seasons saw Albion consolidate their Division 1 status without ever mounting a serious promotion challenge. The appointment of Gary Megson in March 2000 heralded an upturn in the club's fortunes. Megson guided Albion to Division 1 safety in 1999-2000 and to the playoffs a year later. He went on to lead the club to promotion to the Premier League in 2001-2 season. After being relegated in their first Premier League season, they made an immediate return to the top flight in 2003-4. In 2004-5 season, Megson's successor, former Albion midfielder Brian Robson, led the team to a last-day great escape, when Albion became the first Premier League club to avoid relegation, having been bottom of the table at Christmas, as well as bottom on the final day of the season. They failed to avoid the drop the following season, and Robson was replaced by Tony Mowbray in October 2006. The club competed in the Championship playoff final at Wembley Stadium on the 28th of March 2007, but they lost 1-0 to Derby County. Yeah, come on, you Rams. We don't talk about what happened after that, but here we go. The following season, Mowbray led the Baggies to Wembley again, this time in the semi-finals of the FA Cup, where they lost 1-0 to Portsmouth. 1 month later, Albion were promoted to the Premier League as winners of the Championship, but were relegated at the end of the 2008-09 campaign. Mowbray left the club and was replaced by Roberto Di Matteo, who led the club back to the Premier League at the first attempt, but was dismissed in February 2011 and was replaced by Roy Hodgson. Hodgson guided Albion to an 11th place finish for the 2010-11 season. Then followed an 8-season continuous run in the Premier League. It included an 8th place finish in 2012-13 under Steve Clarke, and 10th place finishes under Roy Hodgson in 2011-12 and Tony Pulis in 2016-17. On the 5th of August 2016, it was announced that long-term owner Jeremy Peace had sold the club to a Chinese investment group headed by the Lei Guochuan. By this time, the club had already begun to fall into a state of torpor and were relegated to the Championship at the end of the 2017-18 season, ending their 8-year Premier League stay. Pulis and his replacement Alan Pardew were both sacked during this season. Albion finished 4th in their first season back in the Championship under the management of Darren Moore, and later caretaker manager James Shan. They lost the Championship playoff semi-final against Aston Villa on penalties. Slaven Bilic took over as boss on the 13th of June 2019 and led Albion to an automatic promotion back to the Premier League during the 2019-20 season. After a poor start to life back in the Premier League, Bilic was sacked on the 16th of December 2020, with Sam Allardyce as appointed as his replacement the following day. Hope you've enjoyed this video very much. It was a very short one. Subscribe and stick around for some more regular footballing content. Next week will be a history of West Ham United, and on the Thursday, and coming up on Sunday will be the best Championship winter transfer. So it's a bye from Rams Fan YT for now.